I am very pleased to be moderating a panel on the future of classifieds, because it seems to me that anytime we talk about innovation, the next thing we want to know is what is the future. So today, are you all here? Good. I invite my panelists up. We have Rob Patterson from eRentals and Friday Ads. And Rob, I just have one question. In your bio in the book, it says you have 30 years experience. You started when you were 2?
Yes, clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Want to get that clear. Child prodigy. Dr. Marco Barth from Immobilien Scout. Where are you, Marco? Here he is, over here. It's also part of Property Gurus, which is a leading property site in Asia. Pierre-Francois Martin from Schibsted in 35 markets around the world. And then Randy Greencorn. Randy, where are you, Randy? There you are, there you are. Now, Randy is not in the classified business. Randy runs a social platform called Chatterblock. It is a sharing platform for families, but he has a lot of experience with building new technology for the purpose of connecting people. And if you think about it, that's what classifieds are, aren't they? It's connecting buyers and sellers. So we're going to start this panel off with each of them with a statement. Then I have a few questions for them to get some discussion going. Then we'll take questions from you. But first, as we say in the US, let's do the numbers. On this stage, I asked them earlier how many countries they represented, and the number we came up with was north of 40. And I think we can honestly say the sun never sets on the experience on this panel. I said how many languages. We came up with more than 20 different languages, not that they speak, but that they market in their markets. And total experience, considering Rob started as a child, is close to 50 years on the stage. So, gentlemen, welcome. Can you just take a minute to give everybody your primary idea about the future of classifieds, and then secondarily, why should these people believe what you say?
Okay. It's funny because I remember 2 days ago, many of us were in the Business Leaders Forum, and one thing that really struck me is the degree of uncertainty about the future and even fear about the future that many of you expressed. I remember one question which was, will there still be a business model for classifieds in a few years, or will everything be free? Will our business models be totally destroyed? And it seemed that many of you share this view. I have to say, to me, the first thing that comes to my mind if somebody asks me about the future of classifieds is the future is bright. It is extremely bright. And I'm very much looking forward to it. When you look, it's a very simple thing. If you look at markets which are which are mature with respect to classifieds, you will find that there is a classified platform among the top 5 internet properties in the country. That's you can look at. You can look at the US, you can look at France, you can look at Turkey, you can look at Scandinavian countries. In many countries, that is still not the case. And you don't even have to worry about what kind of business model you will have. If you own and operate one of the top 5 online platforms of any country, there will be a way to monetize it. And in many countries, in many markets, we're not there yet. And that's one of the many reasons why I would say the future is bright. That would be my main statement.
Marco.
Very good. Thanks, Anne. So my name is Marco Barth. Happy to be here. I'm running the business development for Immobilien Scout 24, which is the market-leading property classifieds portal in Germany. And I share most of what Pierre said. I believe that the technological changes which are happening, first and foremost mobile, which has been discussed yesterday in great lengths, offer huge opportunities to get much closer both to the consumer and to the B2B customers, which make our marketplaces run. And I sincerely believe that the power of mobile and the power of data will help classifieds marketplaces to become more valuable, more profitable, and more relevant in the future.
Rob?
Okay. The only thing that I'm certain about in the future is that I have to find a way to pay for the weddings of my 6 daughters. So I need to stay in business. I hope it's that bright future that I hope it's the bright future that Pierre portrays. But I think the future is going to be very challenging. I think we face lots more competition than we ever have before. I think it's a lot easier to compete with us. And I think we have to, if we're legacy businesses from print, we have to reinvent ourselves, reinvent our whole organizations, actually.
Randy?
Yeah, 6 daughters, really?
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. I've got 3 daughters. So as Anne mentioned, I have a background in social media, and when I look at classified ads, I see an opportunity here for better utilization of social media in classified ads, and especially in 2 main areas. One is where trust and verification is required. So you can leverage social media to increase trust. A good example of that is what Airbnb is doing right now with their referral and reference program. The second area is where consumers are looking to make a purchasing decision and they want input from their social network. So I think that as classified ads, there's an opportunity in the future to better utilize and leverage social media.
Well, that's great. So we had 2 votes for bright and 1 vote for challenging and 1 vote for opportunity, which is somewhere between bright and challenging. Or maybe if you mix bright and challenging, you get opportunity, right? I'm going to throw out a question. Jump in whenever you want to answer it in no particular order. But what are the best ways to put our companies on the path to that bright future? Is it technological? Is it social? Is it a combination of the 2? Anybody have a comment? What technologies, how can we use them to improve our chances of reaching the bright?
Yeah. Well, maybe I can start. I think it's very important to understand technology and how you can use it to improve the core idea of your business, which is bring together people supplying something and people seeking for something in a very efficient and good way. And I think we also know, similar to many people here in the room, the challenges of being the market leader, in a very healthy position and trying to challenge yourself every day to say, okay, what would I do if I were to try and get into this market? So what we're doing is basically that whenever there's a new technology, we try to look at it from 2 perspectives. One is what we call evolution. We say, okay, how can this technology actually improve what we're doing today? So for example, social media can help seekers to find more relevant real estate. It can help them to collaborate easily, to take a decision about the real estate that they're looking for. And we're trying to ask ourselves, from a revolutionary perspective, how does this technology enable new and creative competitors to disrupt our business model? And I think it's very fundamental to be, as someone said it yesterday, paranoid and really check yourself every day how someone can destroy your business and implement some formats to try out how this will actually work. So what we're doing is we've launched an incubator where we have people from external startups, entrepreneurs coming, using our assets to grow businesses, which may in the end be disruptive to our business model, but we very firmly believe that it's better to have an incubator yourself and drive these businesses than having someone other do it. And we do something which we call open innovation. So we basically open our platform and the data we have to give it out, to hackathons, to contests, to creative people saying, okay, with the data that you're generating, how can I come up with smarter solutions to connect people who offer real estate and people who seek for real estate? So that's my take on how to stay innovative and, try to understand and have your radar on of the challenges that will be coming.
Host a hackathon and cannibalize your product before someone else does.
That's right.
That's what Louis Gerstner said at IBM 20 years ago. So, other comments on what the best route for our members to reach that bright future? Pierre?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much along the same lines as what Marco just described. One of the big challenges that we're facing as a company that has been for years in that business is to stay agile. And technology has to play a significant role in that. And it's clear that, if you look at the products that we are operating right now in many of the countries where we are present, they are the result of probably hundreds or maybe thousands of man-years of development. And that induces a certain heaviness in our ability to innovate. And that is a big challenge, because when we see that new entrants are able to be much more agile than we are, and with this I mean not only the startups and the hundreds of thousands of potentially disruptive players, but also new players coming from more established and large companies. Like if you look at Naspers in many countries, I mean, they are using technologies which are more recent than ours. So it is extremely important for us to regain that agility, and the way that we are doing it is to refactor our technology in order to be very much platform-oriented, with very strong APIs, where you have the database at the core, because I do believe that the heart of our business is our database, right? I mean, what we do is we want to bring buyers and sellers together, and the center of that meeting between buyers and sellers is a product, right? And these products are in the database. If you are able to offer a flexible access to the database, which is also, it's not quite easy, by the way, to control. I mean, to have the level of safety that you need. But anyway, once you are able to do this, you have a platform that can lend itself to a lot of innovation, most of which you can't really predict, but that's the nice thing about it. And that's what we are striving to do. And we've done also the kind of open innovation contests and hackathons that Immobilien Scout has done with great success, and we're going to do more of it in the future.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think innovation and agility are very important. When you look at the advancements in technology, the bar is very low. It's easy to create a website. It's easy to steal or to crawl other people's data and get that up onto your site. So basically, you can be copied quite easily. And so unless you're innovative, unless you're adding new features, new functionality, you can be basically duplicated in a matter of weeks.
I was just making note. Rob, 6 daughters. How are you going to do that?
You don't know how I had 6 daughters. I really wish I hadn't said that now. Why am I blushing? This is quite interesting for me, because I've just made a very significant change. So I've moved from a fairly large group to a very small group. In fact, something that was a startup, eRento. So I'm actually finding it much easier now to innovate than I ever have before. I think for me the challenge is really to take what is a technology company and thinks of themselves as a technology company, or should really be a technology company, and have that focus of the technology on putting the buyer and seller, or in my case, the renter and the people who want to hire something out, together. And as long as that's the focus and just innovate around that, I think the first presentation showed how much difference you can make there. So I worry for us in the room, particularly when we come from a print background, about our ability to be really innovative. So.
Could it be said, I think what I'm hearing in these comments, that established companies get weighed down by their technology, and the new company, as Rob was just saying, the eRental can be much more agile because it doesn't have all this other entrenched technology? Would that be an accurate statement? Somewhat accurate?
I think it's accurate for me. I mean, without the legacy, it's so much easier. And particularly without the print legacy, it makes it a lot easier.
So let's talk a little bit about balance. You mentioned there are 2 kinds of balance I want to explore. One is the balance between the technology and the people, because at the end of the day, this is all about people. And then the other balance, well, let's take that one first. How do you reach a balance? How do you establish trust between vendor or renter and and the customer in such an impersonal thing as technology. You know, it may be people they've never met. We had two examples. There was Spock and the other one that now the names escape me that I had in my presentation. Oh, OfferUp Now, you know, where they did have ways of trying to establish trust. And you, Pierre, mentioned a couple too, that establishing trust. But how do you humanize what is a fairly basic kind of technology, cold technology?
Maybe I can try to take this one. I mean, at least the model in which we believe at Schibsted is a model in which we are extremely local, and we try to favor a model in which buyer and seller meet physically. So it's a deliberate decision that we do not want to be involved in the transaction. We just stop at the point where buyer and seller meet. And we encourage them to meet, and we give them some advice on what to be careful about when you meet physically. And we know that you know, our users, buyers and sellers, they like to meet in public places. Sometimes they have to meet in private rooms, like when if you want to sell your sofa or part of your furniture. But usually it works well. It's really based on that very human, basic, physical meeting type of thing. And the nice thing about it is that in the end, it gives our users the impression that there is almost no technology involved, which sometimes is even getting to be a problem in recruiting technology people, because good developers sometimes look at our website and they think, is there any technology in there? Do you have any back office or whatever? Because it just doesn't look like heavy technology. And that also probably creates a feeling of trust towards the platform and of familiarity.
Rob, how does that work in the rentals market? Because it's not a one-off deal. It's not one purchase. You know, it could be return customers.
Well, it could be, equally, it could be when I'm renting well, that's not a good example if I'm renting a marquee for a wedding. I might do it 6 times. But,
for you, yeah.
But, I mean, it could be one-off. It equally could be a constant relationship. I'm quite interested about what Pierre said then, because I would like to get in the transaction, but I think for our customers, the technology shouldn't be important. It should basically, as you said, be invisible, because that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in renting or very simple things. So I think the technology is only really good when you don't notice it at all, and that's what we have to strive for. I think that anything that we can do that makes the transaction simpler has got to be good news for us and for our customers in one way or another. But I'm very interested that you don't want to get involved in the transaction, because that's where I would have thought for us there's an opportunity to realize some of the value that we actually provide for our customers, whereas maybe now we're not getting as much credit as we deserve. Is there a reason why you stop short of that?
Because we think that this would limit growth. At least that has been our credo so far. One reason is that it would limit growth. The other one is that we believe that the core, the growth engine of the classified business is linked to goods which are by nature very much local. You know, white goods, furniture, these kind of things. People need to exchange them. There is a demand, a supply and demand for this. And that has proven to be the growth engine. And this is best done physically.
Sure. I understand that, but that buying and selling process is a bit messy, you know, making an offer and responding to an offer and taking payment and how you take payment, particularly for larger ticket items. And it seems to me that there might be an opportunity for us to provide a solution to a bit of the transaction that's messy and help people, and then help ourselves.
What do you call messy? I mean, you know, I would say that our users probably feel very comfortable with us because they feel empowered, right? So the way that we see ourselves is we are there to empower people to make the best out of what they want to buy or sell, to make the best out of a budget, find the best deals around. But we're just showing them that opportunity, but we're not trying to interfere with how they do it. You know, if you look at what eBay has done, you know, you start being involved in a transaction, and then after a couple of years, you start imposing PayPal to everybody. how about empowering people? I mean, it's not empowering. And of course, it's very tempting to do it
Sure.
in terms of monetization, but that is not what we are after. And we believe that in the long term, you can build more value and better value by empowering people and letting them free of deciding how they want to transact. You know, in the end, in France, around about 30% of the transactions we know are not being done personally. It's the choice of the users that they want to do it remotely. Okay. But it's their problem. And I mean, and we spend a hell of a lot of effort and also of technology in weeding out all the scammers and spammers that are trying to get onto our site, on our platform. So that's the way that we make the transactions as safe as possible with the use of technology, but it is invisible, let's say, to the good people.
Yeah.
So, Rob, is your vision of that somewhat different in where you insert yourself in the transaction or insert e-rental into the transaction?
Yeah, well, for us, it's a much more commercial transaction, so maybe it's easier to do that, and perhaps for the basis of it. No, I don't have any fixed view, particularly. I think when it comes to the future, I'm constantly pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. So I think there might be an opportunity to be in the transaction. I think, as you said, 30% of the transactions are remote. So maybe there's an opportunity to be in some of the transaction. And just in the same way that you're empowering the people, that's just a further extension of that. And for us, anything that I can do that helps a rental company makes their life easier must make eRento more valuable to them. So if that includes handling payments or deposits, then I'll do that. So.
Marco, I imagine that's not really possible in the real estate industry to handle the payments. Or am I thinking too US-centric?
Yeah, well, possible is a big word, so everything is possible in the end, but the question is whether it would be reasonable to do it. And we also don't really go after transaction-based fees for two main reasons. One is that mainly we see ourselves as a marketing partner, both for the realtor and for the private lister in Germany. So we would not really want to go into a discussion with the realtors. You know, he's taking 5% of the transaction and we take 1%. So we would, you know, we see the value that we're creating in empowering the realtor and the private lister. And secondly, at least in our industry, it's an operational nightmare to keep track of whether the transaction is actually being done through you or through somebody else. So it's both operationally not the right alley to go at this point of time, and also we believe in the other way of providing tools for the realtors to market his property.
Tools such as?
Well, tools such as, and that's maybe linking back to the question you had on trust earlier, tools that basically help the realtor to do all his digital marketing activities via our marketplace. That's first and foremost, as obviously everybody knows, listings. So basically, the realtors supply us with their real estate, and we put them on our website for them. But as I will also explain later, we really truly believe that it's important to offer a suite of services around that helps to solve the realtors' real problems. And in Germany, at this point of time, the real pain of realtors is not in marketing their properties, but in acquiring properties. Because in Germany, we're in the lucky situation that there's a lot of demand for property, especially in cities. There's like an influx of both demand from Germany and from other countries. And the real pain of realtors is, how do I find properties which I can market? So we've designed a couple of products which go in the direction of, you know, like a yellow page where the realtor can be found locally and display that he's the right realtor for this area. There's like media products on the website that very, you know, regionally and by target group make it clear to consumers searching on the website who is the right realtor to contact. So we're trying to devise a couple of products around the only listing to give tools to the realtor and build trust that we are the right partner to help him market his properties online.
Is more of the value in the services than the listings?
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm longing to ask a platform and channel question, and I'll phrase it this way. It's not what we discussed, but I think you'll catch up with me. Our publishers here have print, they have websites, Some of them have mobile. What do you see going forward is the proper proportion of those in terms of desirable users and traffic or application of resources? Which do you think should be the primary one going forward, which should be the secondary one, and which should maybe be allowed to sort of dwindle away? Opinions, please. This is all about your opinions, based on your 50 years of experience.
Well, I would say you should not allow print to dwindle away. You should kill print. I was really amazed when I came here at seeing that many of you still have print products. I just don't understand. I mean, mobile is coming up. Many of us are wondering about the potential of mobile to disrupt our businesses. Anybody who is still in print is totally not able to take the mobile challenge. So forget it, kill print. I mean, print, you can maintain print on whatever you call it, respiratory artificial life support. Right?
Life support.
Yeah.
But wherever print still exists, print is just on life support. Just pull the plug. I'm serious about it. Anticipate. There's just no point. So I mean, to your question, what is the right mix? If you have to put a percentage of focus on the first one, is 0. I have not the slightest doubt about it.
And you have no print, is that correct?
Of course we don't.
Okay.
We used to.
You have still very good print portfolio in Norway and Sweden.
Not in classifieds. Not in classifieds.
They have still classified ads in some of the print.
Yeah. Okay. We let's say we have some daily newspapers
Yeah.
in Sweden, Estonia, and Norway. But in classified and within the Schibsted Classified Media, which is the classified division, we have 0 print. We may have a little bit in Colombia still. You're probably right. But we should stop it.
But thank you for being our agent provocateur.
Nobody's perfect.
You know?
If they're making money, why stop?
Because
Why
the
not
way
just-
that
why not just
because
cash
in
cow
my experience, the way that print makes money is not healthy and not good for your future. What I call life support is
Yeah.
that as long as you have what has made the strength of most print operations in the past, which is a strong sales organization, you are able to extract some money out of the market. But I mean, let's face it, in most cases, or in any cases, in all cases, print is not delivering effectiveness to the seller. What is delivering effectiveness is the online part of what you are selling. So what that means is, yes, you can probably extract some revenue, but you do so by fooling the sellers, and you are able to fool the sellers because you have good old school salespeople. That is very bad. Just stop doing it. Because that will just go on maybe a couple of years. And if you, so that's one thing. I mean, at some point, your customers will find out that you are fooling them, and they don't like being fooled around usually. So it's not a good long-term strategy. And second, as long as you have print in your organization, that is preventing you from focusing on what you should focus on, which is online, including mobile.
Yeah, no, I mostly agree with that. In terms of the proportion of mobile versus web, I think that comes down to what type of classifieds you're running. So I talked to a lady yesterday who was saying that her classifieds are for Spanish-speaking people, and they're all on mobile. And so they don't use a desktop, they don't use a laptop. And then I was looking at another site, and it was a job site. And I thought, geez, if you're entering, say, a job description or your resume, your CV, that's a lot of text on a mobile. So I think, in some cases, mobile isn't really conducive for classifieds, and in other cases, you probably want to go mobile.
I mean, even in jobs, not all jobs around are CV-based. As a matter of fact, the bulk of the working population doesn't have university education. I don't know if I'm a bar owner and I want to hire a barkeeper.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at the CV. I want to have some recommendations.
Sure.
So it's probably better for me if there is some sort of recommendation system, probably social based, that is going to help me find the best bartender in town. I don't need a CV for this. And for that kind of applications, mobile is extremely well suited.
Should we also keep in mind that 98% of 18 to 24-year-olds are not only on mobile, but also using social media on a daily basis, so as a way to reach them. Marco, Rob, do you have an opinion about the print?
What, on print?
Oh, or take an opinion on either.
On print, I'm not sure that, I have to mostly agree, but because I've seen it happen, and I do think that the print legacy compromises to some extent, unless you can be very disciplined and split the two apart. Particularly, you're absolutely right about salespeople being able to fool the customer, or they don't even fool them intentionally, but bundling those two things together, print and online, destroys the value of online. But if you can keep them separate and they're two completely distinct things, then I don't see why that should be an issue at all. It's just difficult organizationally to do that. And as to the distribution channel, I really think our customers will decide. So it's our job to make sure that our products are as accessible as they possibly can be, and then the customer decides how they want to use them, whether that's on the desktop or mobile. But I mean, obviously that's a challenge, but I think that's the right way to think.
In terms of accessibility, if one gets outside the EU5 and the US, which have a heavy smartphone adoption, we're also talking about feature phones. And so doesn't that make a difference in what kind of mobile site you put up if you're dealing with feature phones rather than, or what nobody wants to call a dumb phone, but does that make a difference in what you do with your website and your offerings, your accessibility?
Yeah, sure. But you'd be tailoring it to that market then, wouldn't you? You'd design it for that, I suppose.
What do you find in Asia, Marco, as a property guru, in terms of accessibility and access?
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the context of the question of print versus online. But what you find in Asia is that you are still in very early markets. As you said, Immobilien Scout has invested in Property Guru, which is the leading group of property portals in Southeast Asia. And in Singapore, in their home market, it's already a quite advanced market. So basically everyone uses a smartphone, but interestingly enough, we estimate that still 90% of all spendings on marketing properties is still done offline. So there's a huge new home business with developers, making huge glossy print publications to reach their consumers. And we see that this is changing, but still we're very realistic that the biggest share of the spendings is still offline. And even more so in countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, where Property Guru is active. But to answer your question, I think you need to do exactly what Rob said and understand where is your customer today, where will he be in the future, and which way to reach him offers the best opportunities to be very close to him. And I think, like Martha said it yesterday, your customers are mobile, your customers are on the web, and the web and the mobile give you very, more powerful options to, in the case of real estate classifieds, to display your properties, to make it easy for the consumer to see how is the flat looking that you want to move into. It makes for the ones marketing real estate much easier to understand who is the one who's looking at my property. What is his profile? Do I maybe have some information qualifying this person? So for Asia, it's very clearly web and first and foremost mobile into which we're pushing, because we believe that this is where very soon the significant budget shift will happen from offline to online.
How soon?
Sorry?
How soon? Take a stab at that.
How soon? Well, okay, let's say Europe, mobile has happened. It's done. It's through. If you don't have any mobile website, you've got a lot to catch up. I don't know the figures for Asia exactly. I looked at Brazil recently. In Brazil, I think this year will, for the first time, have more people accessing the internet via smartphones than via fixed line subscriptions. And I would estimate that within the next, 3 to 5 years, there will be really a substantial shift of marketing spendings in these very early markets like Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia.
And I think that's pretty much true in the US too. In properties, for instance, I can take my Redfin app on my smartphone and it'll show me what's for sale all around where I'm standing with the GPS methodology. But let's take a quick shift now before we go to audience questions. And here, I'm going to throw out a question to you to think about, and then we'll come back to it, is what keeps you up at night, considering the future? So we were talking yesterday about how you promote your website and your presence. And should it be a brand, or should you be going through the long tail searches on the specific topics? And which have you found more effective in raising visibility and increasing your business and your customers?
I could start. I mean,
Sure.
We believe very strongly in the power of the brand. Not so much, I mean, it's probably not the easiest way. It is probably easiest to build traffic using SEM, using SEO. And I mean, SEM is very comfortable because you can just buy it, you know. Just tell me how much traffic you want to have, and if you have a sufficient marketing budget, you know you will reach that traffic. That's comfortable, but we also believe that in the long term, that is not a sound way to do it, because it means that you remain dependent on Google. And again, if our vision, and that is our vision, is that there is a spot for us in the top 5 internet properties of any country. There is no way that you can reach this and sustain that position by being dependent on another player. Therefore, we want the users to go directly to our site. We want them to know our brand, and we want them to associate our brand with classifieds. So that's why we've started, I think about 3 years ago, we started defining this as an important part of our strategy, and now we're spending significant amounts of marketing money into brand building.
Anybody else?
I would say there's 2 things that come to my mind. One is, I think classifieds is a winner-takes-it-all business. So in the end, both the consumers and the professionals, they want, they don't want hassle. They want one place to go to get their service, to do the transaction. So I think building a brand is extremely important, and I think in the long-term consolidation of classifieds marketplaces will continue. And I think secondly, it's very important to ask yourself, what do you stand for? So what is your brand? So I think it has to be very clear for the consumer, what is he finding on your website? So why should he come to your website? Is it the largest marketplace across different topics? Is it the place to find your new home? Is it the place to find your new car? So I do believe that long tail is important, especially with social media, but I think it's very, very clear that in the end, the winner will take it all, and that you need to have a clear message that you want to communicate and choose the right channels through which you want to communicate it, and then go out and tell it to everyone, like either through SEM or through TV or through print. That depends a little bit on your specific market, but I think it's very important.
Rob?
Yeah, I wouldn't ignore the long tail approach, because I think it's just expedient to take advantage of that. But particularly in the case of Irento, I think it is about building a brand and standing for something so that everybody who's going to rent, their first choice is you. And I don't want to be dependent on Google anymore.
I would
go ahead.
echo the sentiments of that it definitely is winner takes all. I know that in the city that I live in, all the other cities around us, they use Craigslist. And we had a site called Used Victoria, and they did some guerrilla marketing. They put up signs all around town on telephone poles, Used Victoria, and you saw it and you knew what it was right away from the name, and it just took a stranglehold on the city of Victoria. So everywhere around us uses Craigslist, and we use Used Victoria. So kind of an interesting little story.
Interesting.
Well, similarly, going forward, now you're still thinking of your questions, right? Because I'm going to come around to you after this next one. We have some publishers who are very vertical, even sitting here, and some that are very broad, horizontal. What do you see of the future of each of those and the trends in 3 to 5 years? And where should these people be focusing their energies?
I wouldn't like to say where these people should be focusing their
Yeah.
energies. I think that would be a bit arrogant of me. I believe in the vertical, and I believe that every horizontal it's possible to cut verticals out of it. I think if you look at what's happening in the States with Craigslist, it's being eaten alive by lots of verticals. Doesn't mean that it doesn't still exist. I think for certain markets, and I would have thought the property is one of these, you can provide a much better, richer experience just by focusing on that market.
Yeah, that's totally true. And you look at a company like StubHub, which sells tickets. They have a lot of really cool features, functions. They show you a map of where you're going to be located in the stadium, and they're rich features that you can't get on something like a Craigslist that you do want to have. So I think there is an opportunity for the verticals to provide that additional functionality that provides the richer, better experience for the purchasers.
Yours are more horizontal, aren't they?
I definitely agree. I mean, even in those markets where we are using the generalist model to take our initial position, we see that as we develop further, we need to develop the functionalities in the key verticals. Because, I mean, let's say the high value vertical categories are crying for a bigger depth of functionality. So whichever way you call it, it might be a horizontal marketplace, but if you look at some of the important categories, you look at the functionalities that we are offering, in a way it is a vertical within the horizontal. Mm-hmm. There is no way to get around this. I mean, if we don't offer that kind of functionalities, I don't know, vacation rentals, you need to have a calendar so that you can show availability. Yeah. Cars, you need to have filters so that people can search with whatever mileage, type of fuel, age, and whatever. I mean, you need these things. There is no doubt about it.
So are you saying, in addition to reaching out to your customers' specific interest, which would be a vertical, vacation rentals versus automobiles, it also is easier for the publisher and the technology to focus in a vertical, because you would have different kinds of technology that functions in your website? Am I hearing you correctly?
It's not easier, but it's a must. I mean, okay. You just don't stand a chance in the long term in those verticals if you are not matching the capabilities of pure vertical players. Okay. So in the end, we're all in the same business.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Heather has a microphone. If you raise your hand, she will come to you. You may ask any question you want. You don't have to ask my question, but if you do want to tell us what keeps you up at night, you can ask these four gentlemen to give you some tips on how to get a better night's sleep, if it comes to that.
Hi, Krista from Sanoma, Finland. Very interesting discussion. What I wanted to know is, do you see social media as a threat? And what I mean by that is that in some markets we see a kind of behavior where people want to lose the intermediaries and just do a pure peer-to-peer type of transaction. So people reach out on their social networks and go ask for a used children's trolley or whatever it is that they need, and then just do the transaction by trusted peers or within trusted peers. Do you see that as a threat? And if you do, have you taken any actions?
I would say yes, there is no denying it is a threat. You look at the power of LinkedIn against job verticals, that is a worry. You look at the power of Facebook, like you said, for selling household goods. Yeah, there is no doubt. Competition is becoming more multiple or different than what it used to be, and social media is a threat, there is no doubt. I think the strengths that we have and that we have to play upon have a lot to do with volume. In the end, if you want to sell your baby carriage or something, you might find somebody among your Facebook friends. You might not find anybody among your Facebook friends. So instead of going to Facebook, you go to Blocket if you're in Sweden, or you go to Tori if you're in Finland, and then within a couple of hours there will be 10 people calling you, offering to buy the baby carriage. Yeah. And why do I need to sell this to a friend if I can do it faster, easier, and get more money for it by being on a big volume site? So what I mean with this is, on the one hand, yes, there is no denying there is an element of competition coming from these. On the other hand, we have some strengths, and that is also one of the reasons why I believe that a strategy where brand building plays an important role is also an important element in protecting us against these moves.
Maybe if I can say something also, because I particularly like the topic of social media and peer-to-peer marketplaces that you're referring to. We are looking at this very carefully. We see that companies like Airbnb are attracting lots of attention, focus, and lots of money, and that they're actually, creating a new industry that hasn't been there before. And we see that in many different areas in Germany, this idea of, sharing assets that otherwise sit there, is penetrating the society. Like car sharing is everywhere. Friends of mine launched Friendsurance, where the idea is, okay, you have like a social network and you get insurance at a cheaper rate because through this network you disclose that you're a lower risk than other people. So I think this idea is here to stay. And the key thing is really to look at it and to try it out. What I mean with this, one thing is that, for example, Immobilien Scout has decided via the shareholder Deutsche Telekom to invest into a company that's doing something like Airbnb. It's called 9flats. It's one of basically 3 private home P2P marketplaces, and to collaborate very closely, to see what challenges do they come across and at which point of time may they enter into segments which intersect with what we're doing today. Today we can very safely say that their focus is very much on travel and developing the business around travel, so they will not go into short-term rentals, which is basically where our business model is starting. But it's very, very interesting and also very healthy for our business to see, what they are doing, which questions do they come across. Secondly, I think it's social media is there for everyone, so established players can also use it, to make more money. I mean, things that we are doing is that if you want to be informed about new properties which match your search criteria, we can do the fulfillment now also via social technologies on your Facebook feed, which is like a pretty cool feature, because in the end, somebody said, you need to be where your customers are. So, okay, if your people are not looking at emails anymore, but at Facebook, go deliver your product in Facebook. So I think it's very important to make, small niches, get some techies, get some digital natives, which I'm, for example, not. I mean, I don't really use Twitter. I look on Facebook once a week. Yeah? But get the people who, use Facebook every day, who do their work with Facebook, who Twitter every time, put them into a room and say, okay, think about our assets, think about what you would do if you were a young startup, and try to come up with new ways to run our business. That's a little bit, I think, what you can do.
I think that in that social regard, the peer-to-peer transactions have always gone on. So friends have always, sold things to each other because it's easy, but you have to have that market size to realize the proper value for your goods. I think, so Rento at the moment is B2C completely. I think that one of the things that we're going to be doing very shortly, because I've spoken to 2 startups in the last 2 weeks, is enable peer-to-peer, because I think that that's actually what we're good at, is enabling people to, and now we have the technology to do that, so we can enable people to rent things to each other. It won't be simple, but I think there's a couple of good versions of that. There's one already for car sharing in France, I believe. And if we can provide the means to enable that to happen, then it's a huge opportunity for us, and I think we're also meeting a market need. Will we completely disintermediate the market? I doubt that. We talked about this a lot yesterday about whether dealers of one sort or another will stay in the market. But I don't see any reason why we can't play to both sides.
We have a question over there.
Yeah, what keeps me up at night, by the way, I'm Tim from Chrono24, classified our marketplace for watches, is monetization. So I would like to hear what you think of future innovative ways to monetize classifieds?
That's a good one. Let's get down to it. Money. How do we make money in the future?
How do we make money in the future? I wish I knew. I think, well, if we provide value for the commercial customers, then you can charge for that. So from my perspective, I think you have the basic listings, and I hope that we can continue to charge for those. And then for me, it's about building services for those customers that make it easier for them to, in this case, rent things or whether it's to sell things. And I think there's huge value in that. I think there's possibly an opportunity for us to extend those services to not be about our marketplace, but to help them generally do their online marketing. And there should be enormous value in that.
Is there any future in a ad platform, AdSense kind of thing for classifieds? If people want to keep it all free, or is that pretty much going to die? Is anybody using advertising to make revenue on the classifieds?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But you know, what comes to my mind, if you take it at a very abstract level, is what the junk mail founder was saying on the first day, which is that, how did you put it? Nothing is changing, but everything is changing. So I believe that really applies to the case of monetization. I mean, if you think about the ways that classified newspapers 20 years ago or more used to make money, in a way, what we are doing today on online platforms is pretty much the same, but adjusted to the online technology. I mean, there used to be display advertising. There is still display advertising today. We used to make, professional sellers pay for their ads. We still do this today in online marketplaces. We used to offer visibility options. We still use premium or visibility options on online. So I think what's really important is to have the innovative capability of inventing the products, the advertising products or the monetization products, which will deliver value to our users with whatever technology is relevant at any point in time. So the big challenge currently is how do we adjust these various models for mobile traffic, right? I mean, what kind of display formats are going to be tomorrow the ones with which we can monetize mobile traffic? That's, of course, a big question, but I am totally confident that when mobile traffic is, whenever mobile traffic makes up a significant share of internet or of online usage, there will be ways to monetize. And of course, we have to be at the forefront of developing that kind of products, but they will exist. I'm not worried about this, but that's where we need to put our innovative capability. The same is true also of online. I mean, classical static banners, I think we also had a discussion 2 days ago about this, are probably going to go down in terms of value, in terms of unit prices. So we also need to innovate with whatever video formats and very much targeted big data-based type of display advertising formats. That's where we need to innovate, but I think the basic of it, you know, a combination of display, of visibility options, of professional monetization from professionals, I think that is reasonably stable as long as we're able to offer value to sellers by giving them good effect in finding buyers.
Anybody else have something to add to that about how to make money?
Well, I actually have a question for you guys. What about the transaction side of things, making money on the transaction? I know you're not doing it, but do you guys see that happening? So like the Airbnb model, where I tried to phone somebody who I was working with on Airbnb, they actually blocked out my phone number. So you can't transact outside of Airbnb. eBay is very similar as well. They make their money not on the listings and the premium services, but I guess they do a little bit, but primarily on the transactions.
It's definitely a model. I mean, just because we choose not to focus on this one doesn't mean it's a bad model. It's just a strategic choice.
I think it's definitely possible, and some of these peer-to-peer things, the only way to enable the transaction to happen is to provide the ability to handle the transaction, which is what Airbnb do, basically. So for us, for rentals, yes, it's definitely possible for us to get inside the transaction.
Another question. We have time for one more.
I have one question to the podium. Do you believe that in the next years the classified business worldwide is more and more dominated by, let's say, 4 or 5 big players? Or do you see local, national players gaining strong positions in their respective regions or countries?
Good question. First thing that comes to my mind, business is local. So in my belief, in order to be locally successful, you need to have locally responsible entrepreneurs running your business. It may be different in different classified segments, but for real estate classifieds, we actually do see little cross-national synergies because people are looking for real estate predominantly in their own city, a little bit in the rest of the country, but only to a very limited extent in other countries. Nevertheless, I think it's a good question because going forward, it may be a scenario where there will be groups of classified portals coming out because even though there's no immediate synergy business to be made, there's a lot of know-how sharing and cracking the nut across which channels you address, which use cases for which target groups requires a lot of thinking and technological savviness. So in the end, there may be value in groups of portals coming out and serving markets using the lessons learned from other markets. That's my general view.
Yeah, which is pretty much what we are doing at Schibsted. But maybe if you take it from a different angle, I think that with the shift from print to online, something has changed, and namely, that's a migration or a disruption that has brought the classifieds business to a totally new level, right? I mean, if you look at just the number of the volume of ads that we were talking about in the print days. I mean, I remember that at some point, Junk Mail was very proud of having 15,000 ads in a week. At Le Bon Coin, we have 700,000 new ads every day. That is what the power of online is about. That is really creating and multiplying the market up to levels that were unheard of before. And that makes this coupled with the network economics that we have, this winner takes it all characteristic of our industry, which makes for extremely high margins when you have reached the leadership position, that is now making this business very attractive to international investors and very visible, which was not the case in the past. So when you look at well, I mean, you could say this of Schibsted. I mean, when we started defining online classifieds as our growth vehicle in 2006, that was based on recognizing in our home markets how huge the potential of classifieds was in terms of value. And that was due to the development, the early development of online classifieds in Scandinavia, which we witnessed firsthand. And then we said, wow, that's a great business, we want to be part of it. And then we started going all out in, well, today, 30 countries in the world, and we will continue expanding. And now we are seeing that players such as Naspers have also recognized the value of it, and they are investing and they are consolidating. For those of you who know Avito, Avito raised $150 million less than a year ago, also to go on international expansion. So definitely there is this understanding now about the value potential of classifieds, which is attracting powerful international players. So yes, it could very well be. I mean, I could definitely see a scenario where there will be some consolidation going on at the worldwide scale.
Thank you very much.